There's an easier way to buy a home. Most people follow the same advice: save more, borrow less, wait until the right time. The truth is, that advice might be holding you back. As a CFP who works with many professionals saving for their first home, I've seen how this typical playbook slows people down. In this video, I'm going to show you a 3-part strategy that can get you into your dream home faster, which includes a tax trick most people don't know about. But first, in order to understand how this strategy works, you need to know what it takes to buy a home in the first place. Most people don't buy homes with cash. They borrow from a bank or another lending institution. But the bank isn't just going to hand you the amount that you need if you promise to pay them back. They want you to have some skin in the game, so they make you put down a portion of the cost yourself. That's what's called a down payment. Once you have your down payment, you and the bank put your money together and buy the home from the seller. You become the new owner and get to live in the house, but you still owe the bank whatever you borrowed from them, plus interest. Instead of making monthly rent payments to a landlord, you now make monthly mortgage payments, usually spread out over 15 or 30 years. But how much do you need to actually put down? This is exactly where many first-time homebuyers get stuck. The conventional wisdom says to put down 20% and borrow 80%. But let's be real, your dream home is probably not cheap. For $1 million home, you need $200,000 just to borrow the other $800K. Imagine how long that would take you to save. Years, maybe even a decade. But the secret is you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. There are 2 ways you can make that number a whole lot easier to deal with. Number 1, shrink the amount you need to save. And number 2, supercharge your savings. Let's start with the first one, shrinking that $200K number. The trick to getting into your dream home sooner is to borrow more, not less. Because if you borrow more, you don't need as large of a down payment. I know that sounds completely backwards. Everything you've been told about borrowing money is that less is better. Less debt, less risk, less stress. But stick with me here, because even billionaires still borrow instead of paying cash for their real estate. It's how the wealthy build fortunes, and understanding why they do it can help you buy your first home. Most people don't realize that the 20% down rule isn't really a rule anymore, especially for first-time homebuyers. The National Association of Realtors tracks this statistic every single year. Their 2005 report found that the median first-time homebuyer put down just 10%, not 20%. And remember, the median is just the middle of the data that they looked at, which means some people put down even less. If you qualify for an FHA loan, that's a mortgage backed by the Federal Housing Administration. The minimum down payment is 3.5%. What about a regular mortgage, like a standard loan from the bank? You might think that's where the 20% rule kicks in. Not true. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the 2 giants that back most home loans in this country, have programs specifically for first-time buyers that allow for as little as 3% down. And if you've served in the military, a VA loan can get you in with 0% down. The point here is that you have options as a first-time homebuyer, depending on the loan program, your credit score, and where you're buying. Now, I'm not going to pretend that there's no trade-off here. When you put less down, 2 things happen. 1, the lender charges you mortgage insurance. That's an extra monthly cost on top of your mortgage payments. 2, you're borrowing more. A bigger loan equals a bigger monthly payment, and also more interest paid over time. What most people don't realize is that sometimes those numbers still make sense. That mortgage insurance might cost you a few $100s a month for several years, but compare it to the alternative. Waiting to save more while prices keep climbing and you're paying rent the whole time. Some or all of your mortgage interest could be tax deductible. And for the first time since 2021, even the mortgage insurance could be deductible as well. Now, I'm not going to get into this today because this deserves its own video, but make sure you're subscribed so you get notified when the breakdown is out. Okay, so that's lever number 1. You might not actually need to save 20% for a down payment. You might just be able to borrow more. But that doesn't solve the second problem, because even if we chop the down payment in half, 10% of $1 million is still $100,000. That's still a lot of money. And saving for it the traditional way, stuffing cash in a savings account and hoping you get there, is exactly what keeps most people stuck. So the question is, how do we get there faster? The answer, as I mentioned earlier, is by supercharging your savings. All savings are not created equal, because when you're diligently saving cash in a bank account, something is happening in the background you probably aren't even thinking about. Your target is moving. Home prices in this country have historically climbed around 4 to 5% every year. Meanwhile, even the best high-yield savings accounts today pay right around 4%. And the interest you earn on savings is taxed at your ordinary income rate. In a 24% federal bracket, that 4% becomes closer to 3% after taxes. Now run the math. Your dream home is climbing at 4 or 5% a year, your cash is growing by 3%. Every year you save in cash, the gap between what you have and what you need gets larger, not smaller. It's like running up an escalator that's moving down. You can work harder, save more, cut back on everything, but the floor keeps sliding away. This is why so many people feel like they're grinding but never reach their goal. The math is working against them. So how do you flip it? A savings account earning 4% isn't going to get you to your down payment very quickly, but a properly allocated investment account might. Historically, the stock market has returned around 10% per year on average. Some years are up a lot more than others, but over time, it's significantly better than what cash earns in a savings account. Generally, it's also taxed at better rates if you hold your investments for more than 1 year. The earlier you start, the better, because when you're working towards a big goal, having more time lets you ride out those ups and downs of the market. So lever 2 isn't asking you to save more, it's asking your money to do more. And cash in a savings account is barely doing anything at all. But we can take this even further. There's not only 2 levers, there's a secret third lever most people miss entirely. Not a new way to save, not a new way to invest, a way to take an expense you're already paying for every single month and turn it into something that gets you closer to your dream home. When you rent, you make a payment to someone else so you can live in their home. Every month, that money leaves your account and sometimes goes straight towards helping them pay off their mortgage. A mortgage payment looks similar on paper. It's a monthly check, sometimes it's even more than your rent, but it's something completely different. It's a form of forced savings. Part of every payment pays the bank interest, the rest goes towards paying down what you've borrowed, which means you own a little more of your home every month. Every month you spend renting is a month your money is working for someone else. Every month you're paying your mortgage is a month your money is working for you. The sooner you flip that switch, the sooner your dream home comes into reach. So here's how you do that. Start small. Instead of waiting until you can afford your dream home, you buy a smaller one first and you use it as a launch pad. A studio, a 1-bedroom condo, let's say it's $500,000. And the moment you sign the papers, 2 things happen at once. First, you're in. That forced savings machine flips on. Every mortgage payment starts building equity in the background while you live your life. Second, your down payment math changes completely. Now you need to come up with a much smaller amount. And of course, you can stack this with what I talked about earlier to put down less than 20% to shrink that requirement even more. But once you own that starter home, something else kicks in that multiplies everything you've just done. That's because you now have what's called financial leverage. Financial leverage is what changes the game. It's how a $500,000 starter home can turn into a down payment for your $1 million dream home, without you ever having to do anything besides continue making your monthly payments. It's also the reason the wealthy don't always buy real estate with cash, even when they can. Let's make the math simple. When you buy a $500,000 home, you're not putting down $500,000 of your own money, unless you're paying for it with cash. You're putting in, say, 10% or about $50,000 for the down payment. The bank covers the rest. When you do that, you don't own 10% of the home, you own 100% of it. The bank is just the lender, they don't get to share in the upside. Every dollar that home goes up in value belongs entirely to you. By putting down just 10%, you now control 100% of a much larger asset. Now let's say your $500,000 starter home appreciates to $600,000. If you bought the home using cash, your return on this investment is the gain. That's $100,000 divided by what you paid for it, $500,000, a 20% rate of return. But if you put down just $50,000 and sell the house, you pay back the bank and you get to keep the same amount of profit as the person who put down all cash. That $100,000 of gains came from you putting in $50,000 instead of $500,000. 100K of gains on a 50K investment is a 200% return. A 10x multiplier compared to the guy that paid cash and earned $100,000 of gains on his $500,000 investment. The less you put down, the higher the multiplier. If you put down 5% instead, $25K, that would be a 20x multiplier on your return. That's how leverage works. Your return doesn't come off of the $50K you put in, it comes off of the full $500K you control. Good debt is a force multiplier, working in your favor. Keep in mind, leverage is a double-edged sword. If the home goes down in value, that leverage also multiplies the drop too. But with real estate, especially with a property you're living in, you can ride out the short-term bad markets. And as you keep making mortgage payments, that forced savings machine also reduces what you owe when you do sell. So that's lever 3, using a starter home as a launchpad for a faster way to your dream home. But here's the crazy part. It gets even better. We just turned a $500,000 starter home into the down payment for your dream home, using leverage. But the tax code has one small gift for homeowners that makes the whole thing even better. It's called the Section 121 exclusion, and it's one of the most generous breaks in the entire tax code. Here's how it works. When you sell your primary residence, the IRS lets you walk away with up to $250,000 of the gain completely tax-free if you're single, and $500,000 if you're married filing jointly. It's not a deduction and it's not a deferral, it's gain that never gets taxed to begin with. In our example of a $500,000 starter home that appreciates to $600,000, earning you $100,000 of gain, normally you might pay 15 or 20% long-term capital gains taxes on that amount, which leaves you about $80,000 or $85,000 to use towards your next down payment. But qualify for this exclusion and you get to keep 100%, no taxes at all. To qualify, there are just 2 boxes you need to check. First, you need to have owned the home for at least 2 of the last 5 years before you sell it. Second, you need to have lived in it as your primary residence for at least 2 of the last 5 years. So basically, I just need to own the home and live in it for 2 years? That seems easy enough. What's the catch? There isn't one. 2 years of ownership, 2 years of living in it, and you get to keep all of the profit up to the exclusion. This is exactly why this strategy works so well. You're not just buying a place to live in, you're living in your own investment. One the tax code treats better than almost anything else you could put your money into. And when it's time to upgrade, the full gain is yours to roll into the down payment for your dream home. So now you know how to get into your dream home faster. Borrow more, buy smaller first, and use the tax code to your advantage to pay nothing on your gains. But this isn't the only place in the tax code that rewards people who know how to play the game. So watch this video next where I break down the limited 0% tax window for new investors and how to take advantage of it before the window closes. See you next week. To buy your home gets larger and not smaller. Why am I doing this?